In their family trust, they can give a donation through distribution to the Catholic Church of 10 grand, effectively as a tax deduction. Who thinks it is so sexy it goes beyond being sexy? Isn't that great? So already $80,000 now, we've knocked 20 grand tax-free off. There's 80 grand left to go. So Daisy gets given $70,000, let's say, for example, and let's say 10 grand goes into their company, because anything over $80,000 we pay tax of 40% to Daisy. So the net result is that Daisy will probably pay tax of around about, on that, not an awful lot, probably about $18,000. There'll be some tax here. So probably about $21,000 tax in total they'll pay. Now, if it had all been sitting in Donald's name, they would have paid 45 grand tax or so. It is fantastic. Do you see now why those who plan their tax properly get ahead a lot faster than people who don't? But imagine if they had a plan to put some money into superannuation and pay 15% tax. So they actually were making a retirement fund on the side, and they just put 20 grand as deductible contributions into superannuation. Let's just say they run a business through this trust. They'd pay only $3,000 tax on $20,000. But it's a further 3 grand knocked off their tax. They would have paid otherwise. So do you see how powerful this is? So, are you all following that so far? So that's the secret, income splitting. Magic trick, turning the family home into tax-deductible debt. Now, this is something people often ask me about, so I'm mentioning this. Be aware you can, in certain situations, buy your family home in a trust and rent it back off yourself and effectively make it tax-deductible. However, be aware of a couple of things if you do that. Number one, the ATO don't really like it. Not surprisingly. They grudgingly have to accept, because of Jan Moore nominee's decision, that if you're at risk of being sued, you genuinely are seen as having a real risk, asset protection and other factors, it's okay. However, if you're an employee working at Woolies, just basically as a checkout chick, and you're really in their eyes no at risk of being sued, you do that, they won't accept it. Number two, if you own your family home in a trust, you lose your family home exemption. Okay? You know how your family home is capital gains tax exempt? You lose that in a family trust. I've got my family home in the trust because I'm definitely high risk of being sued. So I have, and there's no problem with me doing it. So just be aware you can do it, but if someone on a forum, and I often read forums and you read people say, oh, guess what, you can do this. Just be aware, always check out things on forums, okay? A bit like the cab driver giving you advice to buy some shares. Just on negative gearing with family trusts, just be aware of that issue. There are ways that you may be able to claim your negative gearing through a family trust or whatever else, but you've really, really got to be careful how you structure it and getting proper advice, okay? The ATO are onto this very closely at the moment, so you just got to make sure that whatever you do, you're structuring it and doing it 100% properly, okay? Just be aware also that, and the reason why, just so I explain this to you quickly, I'll show you what I mean by this. Let's just say that you buy a house in a trust, okay? The reason why it's a problem is this. Let's just say that your income's $100,000. Let's say you make a negative gearing loss of $20,000 in the trust. The problem is it belongs to the trust, not to yourself. Do you see that? The loss is there, and you can't distribute losses out of a trust, only income. Now, one of the things to be aware about, let's just say that you set up a trust to do share trading. So share trading, and that's your property trust. If you make, say, 30 grand doing covered calls or doing options of Andrew Baxter's strategy, you can transfer $20,000 into that property trust to offset those losses. Okay? Is that clear? Yeah, so you can do that. And then maybe other strategies, just be aware with negative gearing. Again, today I'm trying to educate you more today to help you understand issues. I can't teach you everything in 1.5 hours of what I've got here today, but I can alert you to these issues. So you're not going to be uninformed and going to make sure that at least that your decision making, you'll check these issues. Let's just have a quick look through some deduction issues now, what you can claim. Home office. Now, if you do your trading or your anything else through a home office, you may be able to claim something. I say may because ATO look closely to home office on a few levels. Firstly, if you need to use your office at home or it's convenient for you to do work from home with relation to your job, the ATO accept that you can claim some of your home office costs like laptop, electricity, lighting, furniture, things like that. Now, rates and interest and taxes, generally you can't. However, if you're carrying on a legitimate business from home and it's a separate part of the house, then they accept you can claim it. So just be aware, generally you can't claim a part of your rates, interest and taxes, and you don't really want to because then you lose part of your capital gains tax exemption on the house, okay? So general rule is you can claim some of your depreciation, your laptop, your electricity, lighting, furniture, things like that. Just be aware also, but if you're trading or if you're doing internet marketing or anything else, and not actually earning any income yet, the ATO will take a pretty aggressive view if you're claiming home office based on that, okay? We know because we've had a few dealings with them on the matter. I mentioned about negative gearing. Just be aware there's a number of things you can claim, like travel to your property, repairs, things like that. One big thing to be aware about is on many houses you can claim a building write-off, which is a fairly big deduction. You get a quantity surveyor to come around to the house and do an assessment, and he will tell you what deductions you can and cannot claim, okay? Just keep that in mind. A quantity surveyor can give you a list of the next 40 years of deductions you're allowed to claim when you buy a house, a rental property. That's quite a sexy little thing. Now, wealth education. I get asked on this one a lot. Can I claim the courses I buy this weekend? I'm sure you're all waiting with bated breath. Am I right? So take a breath. Universal love. Feel it. Okay. Now, first of all, where it's simple. If you can relate your course to your current job, easy peasy. So, for example, Sean and Ingrid, seeing as they put their hand up, they're just going to be mercilessly picked on for this whole time. Let's just say that they decide this weekend to do an internet marketing course, okay? Let's just say that they can genuinely say in their business that we want to actually start online with a personal training and offering certain membership sites or whatever else. Then they can easily claim an internet marketing course, no problem, because it relates to the current business. So the moment you're in business, it's generally a lot easier to claim, say, an internet marketing course. Let's say that you're an investment advisor and you want to claim a share trading course or options trading. Again, no problem. Now, here's where it gets difficult. Let's just say that you're an employee and you want to claim an internet, which doesn't do any of that kind of stuff, and you want to claim internet marketing or share trading. The ATO state that unless you're carrying on a business, even though the law states you don't have to be earning an income from it, provided all the signs are you're carrying on the business, the ATO still take the view that if you're not earning any actual live income from live trading, they're going to argue that you're not carrying on the business as a trader. I'm not sure they're always right, but be aware it's much, much harder to do it. And even when you're live trading, you want to make sure you get at least $20,000 of transactions for the financial year, or if you started trading part way through the year, an apportioned amount, because otherwise you can't offset any trading losses against your personal income, okay? So just be aware that with trading, that if you buy courses and you've never traded before ever and you can't relate it to your current job, the ATO will say you can't claim it. And in order, they will knock it out and say you can fight us in court. If you do internet marketing and you've never done it before, same deal. So it's important, and here's one tip for you to write down, okay? Make sure that if you buy a course this weekend, you immediately get a business plan in place where it's trading, internet marketing, and you really run it as a serious business. Because that means that if you then do subsequent courses, your chances of claiming them are now very high. So make sure, the ATO look at, are you carrying on a hobby or are you carrying on a legitimate business, okay? Car expenses, you can claim up to 5,000 Ks, provided you can reasonably back it up without any receipts, okay? On a cents per kilometre basis. More than that, generally, you get a logbook, or what's called 12.5% of cost of your car. So keep a logbook. Trading, I've already mentioned about trading, initial expenses, carrying on a business. Very, very important. You've got a trading plan in place, and you really... Who here's bought Andrew Baxter's course, for example, this weekend? Anyone? Yeah, a few people. Yeah, you should definitely be, after this weekend, getting a trading plan in place straight away, okay? Internet marketing. Once you've actually established yourself and proven you're carrying on the business of internet marketing, you can claim course costs, ongoing expenses, Google AdWords, all that kind of stuff you can claim. Okay? Anything that relates directly to your business. If you go through 21st Century Accounting, we actually have an accounting package that we give a list which explains all the deductions, what you can and can't claim, and we're actually updating and improving it even now as we speak. One of the biggest things of asset protection and tax planning, which although that unfortunately won't benefit you too much, so I say just give the bill to your kids, is your loved ones, which is proper estate planning. Let's make this one very simple. Donald and Daisy Duck, using them again. They want to, let's just say that Huey, Dewey, Louie and Spewy are growing up now, or let's say that a few of them are young and Huey's a bit older. Huey's now found himself a nice young duck chick, and they've been in a relationship for some time, and they've now got serious. Donald and Daisy die horrifically when one day they're on the lake and they're basically racing each other and they go into a tree and they both die. So what now happens is the other four ducks, of course, they're going to be getting their assets under their will, okay? Let's say Donald and Daisy have done a very basic normal will, which most people get from their lawyer, okay? Now, let's just say that Huey is going through a bitter relationship divorce from his partner, okay? Under a normal will, some of Donald and Daisy's assets are going to go straight to Huey's partner because all of it gets taken into account by the family court. Who would be horrified if it happened to them to go outside their family? Let's say even worse, let's say Huey's partner was cheating on him and he found out. Guess what? She can still get some of his estate. Wouldn't it be great if Donald and Daisy could have a will, but quarantines the assets so that it can't happen? Wouldn't that be great? Guess what? You can see it right here. A bloodline will can do it for you. Also, bloodline wills, let's just say that Huey had gone bankrupt in his business at the time. Who would get the estate which he gets from Donald and Daisy? Himself or his creditors? Who? Wouldn't it be fantastic if Donald and Daisy had it set up so it went straight into a special trust, quarantined, so only Huey would get it out of bankruptcy? Who thinks that's fantastic? Again, bloodline will. Finally, imagine the will could be set up so that the four kids paid a minimum amount of tax, and if they can move any property shares between themselves and pay no tax or stamp duty. Who thinks that's great? Okay, so bloodline will. If you're in a second marriage, let's say Donald and Daisy have second marriage, and there's a risk of a will challenge, do you know that your will can be set up so there's no possible way that you can be will challenged? Who thinks that's sexy? No possible way. Okay, again, proper estate planning, bloodline will. Okay, so finally, in our closing up, I'm only going to cover super extremely briefly before I close. I'll take questions. Unfortunately, I've actually run out of time. So, self-managed superannuation funds. What this is very simple. Who here has got a self-managed fund out of interest? Just a few. Very simply, it's rather than you leaving it with Bankers Trust, be it AXA, any of these guys, you take control of your super so you can trade in it, you can do Andrew Baxter's strategy in it, you can even buy property, all that kind of stuff in it. There's great benefits to it, there's great drawbacks, because once you manage your own superannuation, of course, again, you can increase your returns, but guess what? If you're an idiot, you can lose money too. Make sense? So, self-managed super is just very simply, I just wanted to touch on this today, but if you want to, let's say that you want to start your wealth creation journey today. Let's say you don't have a lot of money available for whatever reason, but you've got a lot of money in super. You may want to set up your own self-managed fund, and you can start your covered call strategy or your property buying today. You pay 15% tax on super only until age 60, and you pay 0% tax after age 60. So just for those of you now, in your retirement plan, think of it this way. Imagine buying shares today in your self-managed super fund or in a superannuation fund let's say a self-managed fund. Let's say that you've now got $1 million of shares and a capital gain of $500,000 in growth, and you're now age 60. You sell the shares to start your pension fund. How much tax do you pay? 0. Assume you've got business premises owned in your superannuation fund. How much tax are you going to pay if you sell it after 60? 0. Who thinks it's a great retirement plan? So you want to be developing some wealth in superannuation and some growth assets in super, like investment properties and shares, because you will pay no tax when you sell it. Not just that, but if you legitimately, let's say that you buy Andrew Baxter Strategies purely to trade your super fund, you can pay for it through your super fund. Okay? Now purely, if half of it's for your super fund, half it's for your own, then you've got to apportion the cost. But let's say that you bought Andrew Baxter or Lifestyle Trader or ShareLord you're here this weekend, any of those strategies, if you buy them purely for your super fund, you can claim the super fund can pay the cost out of your own money. Is that great? Okay, so you can trade the markets in super fund. Be aware there are certain limitations, like CFDs, you can do it, but you've got to be very careful how you do it. You can do options trading, but be very careful. You would not do any naked call writing or put writing. Did Andrew talk about that much? Okay, hedging and strategies and spreads, that kind of stuff, no problem. Covered calls, no problem. And certainly now, since 2007, you can buy property and borrow to buy property in your super fund. So if you want to buy property and you want to get started, but you don't have any deposit, you may find you got the deposit in your super fund. Okay, so who thinks that's fantastic, sexy? Be aware, with a self-managed fund, if you buy artwork, you can't actually look at it. You've got to have it stored away. If you buy a Ferrari, you can't drive it. If you buy wine, you can't drink it. I'm serious, because you can't get any personal benefit. If you buy a holiday home, you can't use it. So just be aware of all this with superannuation. Okay, who here has learned a lot today? Who's going to take some serious action from what they've heard? Okay, fantastic. You've been fantastic audience. Considering it's now like about 10:30 at night, you've done brilliantly. Give yourself a round of applause.